Hey everybody, hope you guys are doing good this morning. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. And I know I probably look a little bit sleepy right now, but I slept in a little bit this morning. I've been on back-to-back tournaments. I had the Lake Dardanelle Toyota Series tournament last week, and then the week before that, I had the Bassmaster Open on Lake Pickwick. So, man, I've been getting up way too early for 2 weeks in a row now and driving way too much. So, hey, I just want to take a little bit of time today and sort of go over the Dardanelle tournament a little bit. Yeah, I finished 13th at Dardanelle. Actually had the fish on to probably knock on door winning the tournament. And I really wanted to go over with you guys some tips and some secrets on fishing in community type holes, because at Dardanelle, that's what I did. I was in the biggest community hole area that you could possibly imagine. And so in order to excel in a tournament like that, finish 13th in the tournament out of that many people fishing in one area, there's a few things that you have to really understand and have to learn in order to help you out there. And I want to share with you guys some of the techniques that I've learned over the years that not only helped me out at Dardanelle, but has helped me out in a lot of other tournaments throughout the course of the year. So when you're talking about fishing community holes, this can be a wide range of different type of structures. This can be offshore ledges, it can be points, it can be stretches of bank, it can be release areas, and in this particular case at Dardanelle, it was riprap. Everybody knows about riprap at Dardanelle, and when they on some lakes are like that. Say for example, a lake like Lake Eufaula, Alabama has a lot of riprap, and it's famous for occasionally doing well. And that was the case at Dardanelle. Most people, what they have when they're going to community holes, they go to community holes because they can't get anything else figured out. And that's exactly what happened to me at Dardanelle. I tried to get everything else to work, and I simply could not get any bites anywhere else. So I was forced to go into an area where I knew there was a lot of fish and there was going to be a lot of fishing pressure. For me, that's the worst thing you can do. I cannot stand fishing in a community hole. That's absolutely the worst thing that for me that I like to do as an angler. And I don't think a lot of people like that either. Nobody likes to get in there and compete with other people in the same water for the same fish. But sometimes that's just what you have to do in tournament fishing. There's not much other way around it. So at Dardanelle, and you can apply this to other tournaments, first tip I want to give you guys is you have to make a mental shift. Most other ways that you fish, you're sort of used to having a little bit of the area to yourself, and you're not having to share it with other people. When you're fishing community holes, and like I did at Dardanelle, you have to make this mental shift and tell yourself it's going to get covered up. There's going to be boats coming and going. There's going to be boats cutting you off. There's going to be boats pulling in front of you. There's going to be boats pulling behind you. There's going to be boats coming in on a key stretch of area right after you left if you caught one. That's just part of it. That's the thing that I hate about it. I can't stand that. So when you make that mental shift, that's the first step in being successful in a high pressured community hole situation, because you're expecting that. Second thing that you have to do is when you get out there, you have to come up with something a little bit different. And everybody tries in their own mind to come up with something different. But in a situation like Dardanelle, you just can't go into Dardanelle on the riprap and pick up a chartreuse colored Strike King KVD 2.5 that's available at Walmart and expect to go behind 50 people and catch fish. You may pick up some here and there, but that's just not going to work. So you have to dig through your box. You have to figure out some either bait or some color or some profiles that you feel a lot of anglers aren't going to be doing. And that can be whatever. In my situation, like I said, I was using a wide range of stuff. I showed you a little bit about the Megabass Knuckle yesterday, crankbait. So you got to come up with that bait. And thirdly, it's about understanding the personality of the fish. In a situation, again, like Dardanelle, the community hole fish are highly educated. They're highly sensitive. They're highly aware. And I heard a lot of people talk about losing fish in this tournament, and I lost a ton of fish. I lost a ton of fish in this tournament, and the ones I caught were barely hooked. And that's because these fish are hesitant. They've got trolling motor noises all over the top of them. They've got big motors cranking up everywhere. They've got electronic pings going on. You know, they've got semi trucks rolling over the top of them all the time on the bridges. It's just chaotic to fish on the Dardanelle ripraps. So in that situation, these fish just don't eat a bait very many times. Most of the time you got them barely hooked. So what you have to do in a situation like that is you have to vary your retrieve up a little bit. Sometimes you have to crawl that bait along the bottom. Sometimes you have to drag it. Sometimes you have to hop it hard. Sometimes you have to burn it, stop and go. So try to figure out a different retrieve, because that a lot of times will get those highly pressured fish to eat. And the most important thing on top of that retrieve is you have to vary your casting angles. Casting angles are everything in community holes, and they were everything for me finishing 13th at Dardanelle last week. If it wasn't for the fact that I had an awareness of casting angles, I never would have finished that high in the tournament. Casting angles is something that you can't go into an area or onto a bank and say, well, this is the area I've got to cast. Casting angles mean a wide range of angles on the same piece of cover. So when I approached a key piece of cover yesterday, I would saturate them from every angle. I would come straight in, I'd come parallel, I'd come at a 45-degree angle, I'd come from deep to shallow, I'd come from shallow to deep. I gave them just every single angle they could possibly want until I hit upon the one that they wanted. And you don't know what that is, because you don't know how that fish is positioned down there. You don't know how it's swimming. And that's the key to catching highly pressured fish. If I could give you guys one tip, that would be it. And the thing about casting angles like that is, in a tournament, it's very tough because you usually have a co-angler with you and they're casting all over the place. And say, for example, if you're tournament fishing, if you're not tournament fishing, it doesn't matter. But a lot of these places, when you roll your boat in to make the cast on them, you're positioning your boat so you can make casts from both directions. But in a tournament, what happens is when you position your boat like this, many times your co-angler gets the first cast. And I wanted so bad to say, hey, dude, just let me, I'm going to cast this way for 10 casts, and then I'm going to cast that way for 10 casts. So don't cast over here because I'm getting ready to make 10 casts there. So that usually doesn't work. I didn't do that, but I wish I could have. And so that's a big key on it too. So you got to remember, lure selection got to be different. Casting angles got to be, a lot of different ones. Vary your retrieves, that type of stuff. And the last piece of advice I'll give you guys on it is timing. When you're fishing pressured community holes, you're usually talking about small stretches of area that are productive. Just because you roll in there at 8 o'clock in the morning and don't catch one doesn't mean you're not going to catch one at 11 or 2. When you're on key water and key structure, you have got to revisit that numerous times during the day. There were several stretches there at Dardanelle where I visited these stretches maybe 7 or 8 times during the day, and like 4 of the times or 5 of the times I didn't get a bite, and I did 2 other times. So you never know when those fish are moving up and down like that. So that's just a few tips that's going to help you guys out in community holes. Like I said, I consider lakes that have community holes as not good tournament lakes. And Dardanelle's a prime example. I do not consider Dardanelle a good tournament lake because there's a lot of dead water on Dardanelle. Everybody usually winds up in the same water. And that's usually stressful to everybody. If I had my way in tournaments, we'd always be on these lakes that fish giant. And there were no community holes. Places like Lake Cumberland, in Kentucky, places like Lake Mead in Nevada, Bull Shoals in Arkansas, these lakes that fish big and don't have much dead water. That's the best tournament situation. But anyway, just a few tips, guys. Thanks for tuning in again last week for the Toyota Series tournament stuff. If you guys didn't get a chance to see it, you can go back on my YouTube channel and look at my practice and my tournament stuff and maybe learn something from that. And I did not get a chance to film again because my sticky thing that on my GoPro mount came off, so I didn't get to do it. Look who's up. Are you up this morning?
Yeah.
Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
So my GoPro camera came off at the last tournament, fell in the lake, and this one, the little sticky thing that goes on your mount fell off. So I didn't get a chance to film again. So I'll be able to tell you as much as I can about it, you know, aside from getting to see it on film. So anyway, I hope you guys are having a good day, and we'll check in later. See you.